the Equalities Commission case that we got embroiled in. I think that is actually one of the reasons why we became tainted in the eyes of the public, because we were in and out of court. Every time they heard about us, from about October onwards, it was because we were in court over not wanting black people in the party. So that made us look, A, a bit criminal, because we're always in the courthouse, and B, it looked to most people like we're stick in the mud sort of racists because we didn't want black people in the party, and they're sort of making it look like we were being unreasonable. And but the fact that it dragged on so long, we couldn't recruit for 5 months. You know, we voluntarily said 3 months. It actually ended up being 5 months when we couldn't recruit. And he could have changed the constitution back in October, because we drafted up, I think Richard may have even been with the constitutional meeting we had, I think you were, where we just changed the old constitution. A few lines here and there would have passed muster exactly. Could have had a meeting last October. We wouldn't have had to have a membership freeze. We wouldn't have had all those repeat appearances in court. We wouldn't be being done again now, because he's inserted all these clauses into it all over the place, that it's a field day for their lawyers to pick us up on numerous things now. We're back in court again. It's probably cost us about £300,000, that whole thing, in the fact that we couldn't recruit, the fact we couldn't get donations off these new recruits, because people give more donations when they're members rather than on a waiting list to join. The fact that we've had to pay his solicitor woman tens of thousands of pounds for drafting up that 92-page thing. That cost about £40,000.
Unbelievable.
That thing. Right?
I think we're going to speak.
Well,
because he's not Nick's tame solicitor. That's right. If you see how it's worded, only someone that's, you know, he wouldn't have worded it that way, would he? He wouldn't have worded it that way on Nick's behalf. He had a solicitor who would write it in the way he wanted it written, which gives him 10 times more power than he used to have. It's as simple as that. Not 10 times more, but significantly more. We had to pay the Equalities Commission tens of thousands of pounds. Every time you go back in court, and we kept on having to go back in court, it cost you £10,000–15,000 every time you show up. It was just horrendous. The bill, I know that when the bill is when the case is finally heard, what happens is the Equalities Commission say our costs that we lost, so we had to pay their costs. And they said their costs were like 65 grand or something like that, 70 grand. That was the cost that we hadn't paid up to them. We'd already paid them loads of their costs. And there was going to be a hearing in June where there's like a haggling match over what the real costs were, because they could have said like £1 million, couldn't they? But they said it was 65. It goes back, it was probably 50. We probably had to pay them 50. We haven't heard. That would have been a bill that we would have paid in June, so I happen to know it was in June. And then he's back in court again with them, and he's going to the High Court, which is going to be even more expensive. He's opted to go to the High Court instead of folding straight away and agreeing to whatever they said, because they're going to win. They're going to win. Instead of folding straight away, which he should have done, and just agreed to whatever silly little things like having home visits. Who wants home visits, you know? Instead of no consequence home visits, you know? We never had it in the old constitution. Instead of just agreeing to it, we're back in court. It's like playing double or quits. They're going to win. They're going to win. And when you go to the High Court, it's like tripling the cost of it. Now, there's another case, the Unilever case, for the Marmite, the jar of Marmite that was put on our broadcast during the general election campaign. Utterly ridiculous. I've got the original demand here that Unilever made on us in April, end of April. It was then £15,000 plus costs. It was settled about 2 weeks ago, and that will have gone up because we didn't settle straight away. Now, when I was national organiser, I used to be national organiser, I used to have to deal with all these cases when we breached copyright. I was sort of the mug. I was the person who had to deal with these people. That was one of my jobs. I had to go apologise. It was never me that did it, but I didn't mind, it was my job. I'd apologise to Reuters for using one of their copyright photographs. I had to apologise to Margaret Hodge three times for things in leaflets that we'd said about her. You just do it because it isn't worth not doing. They've got more money than us, and the law is a rich man's game. Our people don't give us money, so we end up in courts on silly cases arguing the toss when we're going to lose anyway, because we will lose anyway. And bear in mind, every time, when I say it's cost 50 grand for the Equalities Commission case, which is almost certainly what it cost us, we could have had 2 probably support officers in 2 regions, really helping regions develop themselves for that sort of money. That's what we're losing out on every time we go and pay our money out to our enemies. That's what we're doing. Now, when they came to me, I used to eat humble pie and say sorry, whether I like, I don't care, I don't mind saying sorry to them to get the party off several £1,000. That's nothing to me, I don't really mean it, so I'll say sorry to them, and never, I won't do it again, Governor, and all this sort of stuff. And that's what I used to do, repeatedly to these people, not because of I'd done something, some other person in the party uses their image or something. So we use Marmite's image, deliberately, yes. Now, Jim Dowson is our business consultant. He's got widespread Marmite. So he's got widespread experience, we're told, in the business world. He's an expert. He's been a salesman. He knows about industry. He knows about business and sales and marketing. He's a marketing expert. So when Unilever's solicitors, Unilever, one of the biggest companies in the world, a multinational billion pound operation with a massive legal department that could take action against us, and it's a footnote in their legal budget. When they ring him up and say you've been using the Marmite logo, and if you take it down and don't use it again, we won't do anything. What would you say? You'd say, all right, I'll take it down and I won't use it again, wouldn't you? But Jim Dowson didn't. He started saying, if they're not careful, we'll start spreading like Marmite over ourselves at our press conferences. We'll get toast and spread it on Marmite and use Marmite logos. If they're cocky with us, we'll be cocky back to them. That's what he said. Now, when you're, I have to say that the party chairman said something very similar himself on his own Facebook. It wasn't just Jim Dowson. Now, when you're dealing with Unilever, has anyone heard of the Bilderbergers? Bilderbergers. They're a shadowy group of international politicians and multinational companies, the heads of multinational companies. They meet up in secret meetings once a year in some big hotel somewhere, and they discuss what they need to do to bring their one world dream together. Now, Unilever, since the inception of the Bilderbergers, have been one of the main financial backers of the whole thing, right? They are, of all the companies in the world, they're probably the one that's the most committed to being ideologically against us. Most companies aren't really ideological, they just want to make money. Unilever are actually one of the few that's really ideologically against us. So, you know, if they offer you just to, if you say, sorry, won't do it again, that they won't take action against you, you'd have to be mad to throw that back in their face, wouldn't you? But that is exactly what we did. That's exactly what we did. And that case was settled last week with a secrecy clause in it to save the blushes of our own party that will have almost certainly cost us, at least with our legal costs, their legal costs, whatever damages we had to pay them. We've got a guess. I'm guessing 30,000 is a sensible guess. There's some very wild claims out there for it. My guess is 30,000 realistically. For nothing.
£30,000?
Yes, not pence. £30,000. £30,000 flushed down the toilet for nothing. When we've got no money, we've got no money coming in. The appeals have dried up. Let me tell you, the staff weren't paid last month because they've got no money. The European staff are ring-fenced. They're trying to browbeat the European staff into giving them 500 quid each because they've got no money to pay anything. You're getting these texts around now, aren't you, saying give for the Equalities Commission. It's not to give to the Equalities Commission, it's to give to the ones they can't afford to pay already. That's the simple truth.